Are there things that happened, Andrew Gause, since it's 15 years ago Sunday, and 2 emails wanted you to, they got some specific questions that I'll dig up here as we get into this a little bit. Were there things that transpired on 9/11 15 years ago this week that tell you that there were some people around in the money business that knew this thing was going to happen?
Yeah, sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, I don't know where you want to start.
Really? Was it that many? Really?
Yeah.
That tell you that the jig is up, so to speak. That this thing, there's something rotten in Denmark.
Well, there was definitely something rotten in Denmark.
Sure.
You had
of
hundreds
course.
of billions of dollars worth of government securities that were electronically cleared. And the entire marketplace that would have normally looked at these securities and went, hey, where'd these come from? They went down in the rubble. Cantor Fitzgerald, Euro Brokers, and Garbon Intercapital were the 3 major bond brokers in the world.
So what does that mean? Just tell us like we're a golden retriever.
Okay.
Because that doesn't mean anything to us, bond brokers.
No.
What is that? Yeah.
Okay, so the guys that buy and sell the Treasury's debt every day
Yeah.
were concentrated right where the plane hit, curiously. 41% of the fatalities in the trade tower were Cantor Fitzgerald employees and Euro Broker employees.
That many people of Cantor
Almost half of everyone that died were from that.
And so they're brokers and they buy Treasury debt.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, okay,
So what's wrong with
let's
that?
put it this way. Nearly half of the people that died during the 9/11 event were bond brokers. Treasury bond. And for the first time in history, the Securities and Exchange Commission invoked a national emergency. They said, hey, this is a national emergency. And so...
What is a national emergency?
The 9/11 attack was a national emergency. And that under the Securities and Exchange Act, they were allowed to essentially eliminate all of the regulatory restrictions for clearing and settling securities that would have had the tower not been hit. And this is it's the curious September issuance date in 1991 of the original bonds, and then the maturity date, you're talking $240 billion in bonds that were essentially coming due starting that day. And
starting what day?
September 11th, 2001.
That the Treasury have to pay?
Yeah.
Who is paying?
It was a maturity date.
So who benefited then?
Well, who benefited were the holders of these securities.
Yeah.
These were nobody knew about them securities. Again, $250 billion
that weren't on the books.
That weren't essentially on the books. That weren't supposed to exist, and they had existed because back in 1991, this idea of crushing the Soviet Union was big on the minds of the I'll give you a few terms if you want to check them out and a few names, Dick Cheney, Don Rumsfeld, Paul Wolfowitz, you remember them.
The usual suspects.
So they called themselves the Vulcans, if you want to look them up, the Vulcans.
The Vulcans?
Vulcans.
Okay.
And they were going to finish off what Ronnie started. Ron Reagan, forgive me.
What do you mean, the Russians?
The Russians.
The Ruskies?
Yeah, they were going to put the Soviet Union under the ground.
Really?
Yeah. That was
you're not talking nuclear, right?
No, they were just going to crush them. And
financially,
the way that they did it was Project Hammer. Here's some terms if you want to look them up.
I don't know how you know all this
Search name, sorry. Black Eagle Trust. We talked about Yamashita's gold and the Golden Lily Treasure.
Right.
Project Hammer. So what they had done was issued $240 billion worth of Treasury bonds in 1991 and covert, hidden money, and then used these bonds to buy all of the critical Soviet industry. So, they fanned, much the way that they do with their currency raiders, they fanned into the Soviet Union and sort of took over everything that mattered.
Bought stuff,
all the stuff.
With created money.
Yeah. So, but curiously enough, the bonds come due right at a time when those towers are hit, And so the Securities and Exchange Commission, for the first time in history, said, well, it doesn't matter where these things, right? We had regulations. You're presenting me a treasury bond to cash. Who are you? Where's the money going? Where did it come from? And all of these things that we would normally do, all of a sudden we don't have to do anymore. And so for the next 2 weeks after 9/11, the securities market was allowed to clear these bonds without asking who they belonged to, where they came from, where they were issued, nothing. They just say, oh, that's a bond. Here you go. Here's your money. And 250, almost $250 billion was cleared in that 2-week period. And nobody knows where it came from, where it went, or how they got into the system.
So nobody knows the beneficiaries of this little thing because they just don't know who benefited.
Oh, well, there was an investigation going on.
Well, yeah.
You know the investigation by the Office of Naval Intelligence, ONI.
Yeah.
And you know where they were headquartered?
Maryland?
In that section of the Pentagon that was hit by the second airliner.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So it kind of destroyed their entire record apparatus and, everything that they had done. So now, and it wasn't just that. In fact, there were 30 employees at the Office of Naval Intelligence that were working on this particular case. Okay? 29 of them died.
Really?
29. Now, they had just moved this Naval Command Center into a newly opened section of the Pentagon like a month before that. And all of the certificates for all the bonds that were traded were kept in vaults beneath the World Trade Center along with the gold. So all of that combined, just, wow, what a coincidence. I have just never seen.
It is a coincidence.
It's just such a coincidence. And then, of course, I heard the story, which I relayed on the air. And I have to check my notes on a lot of this, but as I recall, it was firsthand information and with photos of it was a semi loaded with gold and a lead car and a chase car. And they were found in the tunnel beneath the towers, and I believe it was from the vaults of the Bank of Nova Scotia. Again, I'd have to check my notes. It is, 15 years ago. But they apparently didn't have time to get this one truck full of gold out. And so as they cleared the rubble and went into that tunnel, they found this semi-convoy. And, of course, the questions arose. How did you organize a truck that quick? Where'd you get the lead car and the follow car? And how'd you load all that gold in there between the time the plane hit the towers and the thing collapsed? It was just